What's up, guys? I'm going to unbox and review this new DiskStation DS224 Plus. This is by Synology. It's a 2-bay NAS, a network attached storage, and I'm going to install two 16 terabyte drives in those bays. So essentially, this is a very good backup solution, and you can automate a whole bunch of stuff with this, and you can even make your own personal cloud storage out of this, and it hooks up to your network, which is really nice because all your computers can access it within the same network. Whether it's a Mac computer, whether it's a Windows, they all could pretty much play well together. So this is what it looks like, very similar to the previous versions. We got 2 gigabit LANs in the back, USB 3.0 in the back, power port. We got the little Kensington lock, a fan to keep it cool, Synology on the side. That's what the cover looks like, and it just pushes in and comes out really easily with these little rubber stoppers or whatever these things are called, but they kind of just slide in. Makes it very easy to get in and out. And also the hard drives to install are super easy. You just push this up and pull. Super easy. And for the 3.5s, literally, I'll show you guys how to do it, but you just take this out, take out the other side, pop in the hard drive, align it with the holes, and then essentially you would just pop it in. Super easy to do. So you don't need any screws or anything like that, and then you basically would just slide this in and you're done. Same with the other side. Tells you it's 1 and 2 right there, and it looks like you can upgrade the RAM because that looks like a RAM slot right there. And then we got a USB 3.0 and we power everything and good to go there. So you get 2 Cat5e Ethernet cables. This is the power supply, so it is 100 to 240 volts. Output is 12 volts at 5 amps, which means it's 60 watts of power. So that's what it looks like. We also get some screws, but these are for the 2.5 inch drives, which the quick start guide shows you right here. So the 3.5 inches, it just goes from the side like I demonstrated. The 2.5 inch screws in from the bottom. So these things come very well packaged. All right, so once you slide this out, you basically take off the sides. You get the hard drive. Now, the hard drive, this is a Synology hard drive. You don't need to get a Synology hard drive. You could get a different brand if you wanted to. However, if you do get a different brand, I recommend getting a NAS dedicated hard drive. Now, the good thing about Synology is this is a NAS dedicated hard drive, which is what you want typically. So we basically just pop this in, and then we just gotta align the holes. It's pretty straightforward. So once you align the holes that you could see, then you get this thing, and then you basically just pop it in like so. And then the same with the other side. Just make sure the holes are aligned. And again, try not to touch the stuff. I'm holding it from the plastic right there. There it is. So that's it. So that now I could grab it from here and basically just literally just slide it in, and that's it. And do the same for the other side. All right, so now that I popped in the hard drives, plugged it into power, plugged it into Ethernet, powered it on, and it's time for setup. So I need a computer that's on the same network as this one. So they're both connected to the same network, to the same switch. And so when you go to finds.synology.com, it will look for a list of Synology devices within the network. And in my case, it found all of them. And so I basically need to click on this one that says not installed, as you guys can see right here. And I'm going to click on connect. And then I'm going to click I have read and agree. I mean, it's on you whether you want to agree or not. But this is how you go to setup. If finds.synology.com can't find it, what you could do is you could get the Synology Assistant. When you get the Synology Assistant, that one typically, if this one can't find it, that means there's something wrong. Either the network's not set up properly or something's wrong, the device isn't working, something is wrong. But most of the time, find.synology.com finds it, or finds.synology.com. Okay, so I'm going to click install, and I'm going to say sure, you can go ahead and download it. I'm going to say I understand. So all data is going to be deleted. Now I have 2 brand new hard drives in here, so it has none of my data, so there's nothing I need to worry about. However, if you're popping in hard drives that have data in it, you're starting from scratch, you're going to make a new RAID or new setup and everything like that. make sure your stuff is backed up. I mean, I recommend backing it up anyways, just to be cautious. So, but because these are brand new drives, there's nothing in there, there's nothing for me to back up, so I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, go ahead and install the DiskStation Manager.
Few moments later.
So now we get to device name. I call it DS224P because I have several Synologies and I just like it that way because I know which one I'm connecting to. But if you had it for a specific reason, then you could call it, you know, something else basically. So your decision. So just auto install. I'm gonna skip this for now. Submit. So after you answer a few questions, this is the important part. Create storage pool and volume. So now we get to RAID type, and we can talk about this for half an hour or more, but I'm gonna try to summarize it. So because this is a 2-bay NAS, it takes up to 2 hard drives. I have 2 hard drives in here, which means I have 2 main options. Main option number 1, I mean, I have more than 2 over here, but basically main option number 1 is, do I want it to be fault tolerant, which means if any one of the 2, it doesn't matter which one of the 2, but if any one of the 2 fails, do I still want to have all my data? If the answer is yes, you want to go with SHR or RAID 1. Now, if you go with SHR or RAID 1, SHR allows different sizes of drives to be connected, which SHR is Synology's hybrid RAID. That's what SHR stands for. So when I select this, I click next, it's going to say, okay, the estimated capacity is 14.5 terabytes. So you might be thinking like, well, I just lost half my space. And in case you're wondering why it's showing up as 14.6 here, and when I put a 16 terabyte drive in here, it has nothing to do with the Synology NAS. It's just the way that the hard drives themselves, not, even though it's a Synology hard drive, all the hard drives, as far as I know, are advertised like this. They're kind of advertised kind of like the metric way. So they're like 16,000 gigabytes is 16 terabytes. Whereas in the computer world, it's in powers of 2. So it would need to be 16,384 for gigabytes for it to be 16 actual terabytes. And that's basic because in the computer world, it's in powers of 2, not like the metric system way. And again, that has nothing to do with the Synology hard drive. It's just, if you get a Western Digital Synology, Seagate, a Samsung, whatever it is, as far as I know, they're all advertised like that. Okay, so you're like, okay, well, I'm basically losing, this is the con of it. I'm basically losing one of my drives because when I copy something, when I copy files onto this, what it's doing is actually mirroring the data on both drives. That's why when one hard drive fails, everything was copied to the other one also. So that's why you could get it. So if one hard drive fails, I basically take it out, replace it, and then all my data from the other one will copy over to that one that had failed, to the new one now. And then I'm back to being safe again once that copy is complete. Now, the other main option is RAID 0, which is no fault tolerance, and you get double the size. So now my 14.6 add together, I mean, it takes a little bit of space to put the DiskStation Manager on here, so you're going to lose a little bit of space there. But basically, now I could get over 29 terabytes, and both of them are being used. However, the problem with this approach is the fact that if any one of the 2 fails, I lose all my data. Not half my data, all my data. Because what happens is when you're copying a file, it's essentially, I'm super simplifying it, but essentially what it's doing is it's kind of like copying half to this hard drive 1, it's copying the other half to hard drive 2 at the same time. And because it's doing that, if this hard drive fails, well, this one still has half the data, but without having the other half of the data, it can't make a complete file. And that's why you lose all your data. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, doesn't that increase performance? And the answer is technically yes, because it should technically take half the time to copy something, because now I'm going to copy it to both hard drives at the same time. However, the Ethernet connection itself might be the limiting factor. So the Ethernet, if I had a 10 gig on this, it probably would make a difference, but because it's a gigabit, it's probably not going to make that much of a performance difference, just as a heads up. So it really depends what you want to pick. I'm going to pick SHR, which is Synology's hybrid RAID, which is basically equivalent to RAID 1. So I'm just going to pick SHR, and I'm going to pick this. I get my 14.5 terabytes, and I'm going to set it up. So now we get to the drive check. We could either perform it or skip it, up to you. I'm going to click perform. I have 2 new hard drives. I just want to make sure they're all good. And I'm going to click on max for the size that I want to use. I don't want to do any partitions or anything like that. I'm going to use the max size. I just want 1 hard drive to show up. That's all I care about. So I'm going to click next. I'm going to pick BTRFS, which is the recommended, which is their file system. And you can encrypt it or not. It's up to you. I'm not putting any sensitive data or anything like that on here. So I don't need to encrypt it. So I'm just going to click next. And I'm going to click apply. And then it says, again, everything's going to be erased. Are you sure? Again, these are 2 brand new hard drives. Nothing's on here. I'm good. Whatever you're doing, make sure your data is backed up elsewhere. It is going to erase everything. So we click OK, and then we wait. So now that perform drive check is complete on the Synology, I could see that both of the drives are healthy. Yes, it did take many hours. Yes, this is a different day. I am wearing a different shirt. In case you guys notice, like, dude, does this guy change his shirt? Yes, I did. All right. So let's go over Synology. Quick overview. Basically, Synology has its own operating system that runs on this thing, and you can actually install apps on it. So the beauty of the Synology is that you don't have to have other computers on to have access to it. So as long as it's connected to your network, all the computers within the network, so as long as you gave those computers access to it and they have the info, the username and password, they are able to access it. Which also means you can share files between a Mac and a Windows PC. And yes, I will be demonstrating on the Windows PC as well. We'll do a quick map network drive on that. But we're on the Mac right now, and we'll do everything on this, and then we'll switch over to Windows real quick. Okay, so basically, you can install a whole bunch of packages, a whole bunch of apps really, and you could do antivirus stuff. You can do Cloud Sync, which allows you to sync with different applications. So if you have a Google Drive or a Dropbox or something like that, you can actually sync with that cloud with the Synology. So there's a lot that you can do with this thing. You can do the Plex Media Server, which allows you to, essentially if you have video or audio files on this, you can go to a streaming box or something like that, that if that also supports it, can actually load up the files and play the files directly from here. So there's a lot you can do here. A lot. All right, so let's concentrate on the main thing. Let's make a shared folder, access it, just to show you guys kind of how this stuff works. Okay, so there's 2 ways of doing it. Number 1 is you could go to Control Panel and click on Shared Folders and click Create and create shared folder. Number 2 is you could go to File Station. You could click on Create Shared Folder from here. Now, if you go to Finder on the Mac, it's showing you Home and Homes, and that's what you see over here. So you don't have to create a separate folder if you don't want to. You can actually just work inside here. So I created not a shared folder, but a regular folder in here, and I could put stuff in here, and we're golden. However, I like to make at least 2 folders, photo and another one video, and that's where I like to store my stuff because I do a lot of, obviously, YouTube video editing. I have a lot of data on these, a lot of data. That's why I have multiple NASs, network attached storages, and I really like Synology. I've been using them for a very long time. So, okay, so we're going to do create shared folder. I'm going to call this video, no description, enable a recycle bin. It's up to you if you want to do that. I'm going to leave it the BTRFS file system. You want to encrypt it or not? I'm going to say no. Skip, I should say. I'm going to do enable data checksum for advanced data integrity. I'm not going to do file compression because that typically lowers performance. So I'm going to click next. Everything's golden. Next. And then you can restrict who has access to it. I'm not going to put any restrictions right now. I'm going to click apply. And then it's going to create a video one. So now if I go and I click on this, it's going to take a second for it to come up and realize it. So when in doubt, just do a restart. So that's what I did here. Now it shows up, no problems. Not sure why I needed to restart. Maybe because I haven't restarted this computer in a while, but here we are. Okay, so I have an almost 10 gigabyte file here, 9.94 gigabytes, as you guys could see right there. And I'm going to copy this over here just so you guys could see how fast the transfer speeds are. Now, Mac doesn't make it too friendly when it comes to copying. I think there's a way you could copy within the terminal that shows you the speeds, but this kind of shows you the overall speeds. And as you guys could see, it's getting about 134, well, a little over 100. Basically, you get 100, then you get 135, then you get 100, then you get 127. So a little over 100 megabytes per second. Now, 1 byte is equal to 8 bits. So if this is a gigabit Ethernet port, which means a gigabit is technically 1024 megabits per second. And I don't know how they're counting gigabit. Maybe they're counting it as 1000. But either way, 1024 divided by 8 gives you 128 megabytes per second. So as a result, we're copying right around the maximum threshold, very close to it at least. And so it takes about a minute or so for this 10 gigabyte file to copy over. Now, besides the copying speed, I also want to show you guys that I could literally play this file directly from the Synology and it plays very quickly. It loads very quickly. That's what I want to say. It loads very quickly. So I'll open that up and I'll also fast forward it just so you guys could see that it loads very quickly even though it's on a Synology drive. So now that it's done, I'm going to double click. I'm going to press play. So as you guys saw, very fast, very fast, very fast, very fast, very fast. So it loads very quickly on a gigabit speed connection. Now let's jump over to the Windows machine. So now that we're on the Windows machine, you could go to the same IP address and port, log in, good to go. Everything shows up here. If I click on File Station, everything's the same because you're accessing the Synology on the browser. So it doesn't matter which operating system you're using when you access this thing. Alright, so now I'm going to show you guys. So on this computer, I could type in DS224P and all three show up. I could click on video. I could load up that video right there and see how fast that thing loads. Super fast, as you would expect it to be. And if I copy it over to my desktop, I love the fact that Windows, it actually shows you the speed and it's just right in your face. That's Windows is, I do really like the Windows operating system, even if it's not as efficient as the Mac in certain cases, but Windows, some things, it just really makes it really easy to use. And overall, I'm much faster on a Windows computer because I know a whole bunch of the shortcuts and stuff like that. Anyways, all right, so that's besides the point. So let's actually create another shared folder and then we'll also delete one as well. So we're going to call this one photo, and everything is the same as I did for the for the video. Access to everyone, sure, shows up, and then literally all I need to do, I didn't even need to do anything. If I was at this level, I would just need to click F5 and it would show up. But see, it immediately showed up. This is what I mean. So it was weird that on the Mac I had to restart it for it to show up, but on Windows, shows up no problem whatsoever, right away. Okay, so now let me show you guys how to map it, and then I'll show you guys how to delete it. So if you guys want to map a drive, you need to go to this PC level, because if you're at a different level, it's actually not gonna, if you click on this, you're not gonna see the map network drive. So you need to be at this PC level. So then if you could click map network drive, and then you could pick a drive that's not already used. So if I want to call it V, then you could type this in. And you can't do it at this level. It can't just be this, because if I click finish, it's going to say, I don't know what you want. It needs to be the server plus the share folder. So the share folder for me is called video. I'm going to click finish. If you weren't logged in, it would ask you for your credentials, but because I'm logged in, it shows up. And yeah, there it is. Again, loads up real quick. So let me just show you guys, in case you guys want to delete it, you would go to the control panel. So again, go to control panel, go to shared folders. If you want to delete photos, right click on it, click delete. It's going to ask you to say, are you sure it's going to delete everything? And then it's going to ask you for your password. So once you type that in, it's going to essentially erase that. And then again, if I go to Windows and I go to that, There it is. So photo is no longer here. So in a nutshell, this thing's pretty awesome because number one, you can share files between different machines. And I say machines because it could be a Windows PC, it could be a Mac, it could be an iPad tablet, it could be the airplane that's passing right now as I'm speaking. Every time I'm like literally recording, I get my thoughts together and then like an airplane passes. It's like, come on. Anyways, but essentially you have that. The fact is you get, relatively speaking, it's pretty inexpensive for the storage because of the size, because of the spinning hard drives are relatively inexpensive compared to solid state drives or getting the equivalent amount of space as online storage. Having your own storage does make it a lot more affordable. There is no subscription or anything like that. You have to pay with this thing. It's a one-time buy and you are golden. You can also set it up, as I showed you guys, for redundant. So if one of the hard drives fails, you still have the data in the other. So there's a lot of bonuses to it. It goes to sleep. A computer doesn't need to be on for this to be on because it's hooked up to your network. So it's independent of any computer. So any other computer could just go on, access it, and you're good to go. So there's a lot of benefits. You can set it up as a media server with Plex, for example, and stream devices to a streaming player. So there's really a lot you can do with this thing. So with that, thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave it in the comment section below. And as always, catch you guys in the next one.